Welcome back to Switch to Linux. Today we're going to do a look at a well-anticipated release. This is the Peppermint OS 9. This is actually one of my favorite distributions. This is my distribution of choice for running on lighter weight hardware. I know there's other ones like Linux Lite and MX Linux that also are very notorietable. But I really like Peppermint, and that is actually what I use to write my books on my Lenovo. This is a Lenovo S21e, and it works Peppermint just fine. This does still use Peppermint 7 because I set up this computer a while ago, and I just didn't see a big reason to change. Probably the only package I would like to update is the LibreOffice, but I could actually update that without having to change the entire operating system. That being said, the Peppermint OS 9 is a wonderful distribution that is based on Ubuntu, but borrows some things from Mint as well, like the Mint software updater, which is an excellent choice. And this is a distribution that is kind of focused on competing with your cloud platforms like your Chromebooks and things like that. So you see a lot of applications that are very similar to how a Chromebook may run. That's really what it's based on. This uses the LXDE desktop with a lot of influence from XFCE as well. And what we're going to do here is first we'll have a quick look at the press release, and then we will go ahead and boot up a VirtualBox where we install this. Now, one of the downsides of Peppermint that has always been with Peppermint is there is no upgrade path. So if you're already running a previous version of Peppermint, there is no upgrade path to go from 7 to 8 or from 8 to 9. And they confirm that as well. So if that's what you want to do, it's probably not a difficult matter of saving your home folder and then maybe your applications. Maybe if you install something, one of the backup applications, then wipe your disk, install the latest, and then drop your home folder back on there, reinstall a few applications, and you can get it just as fine. I don't bother with that because, like I said, 7 is still under support. It works just fine. It still gets security updates. I don't see a real big reason to change it at this point. But the 9 release, here are some of the things about 9. They've replaced LXR and R with the XFCE display settings. Basically, they're starting to move away from a lot of the LXDE components towards a more XFCE based, which is literally the thing that I like about it the most, is because it really looks like a lot like XFCE in many areas. And it's just, I always love the beautiful theming and things, so I'm anxious to see what this one looks like. I have not even installed or booted it up yet. Menu editor is now installed by default, so that is something they put in. The take-home message of that is that this is a team that actually listens to their user base. That was what users had requested. I'm curious to see if they've actually put in a more simplified measure of getting the desktop icons in place. That's the one thing that I really like that they've never had done. You set it up in the dconf editor is what you do. Nemo File Manager now has a send by email, which if you have something like Thunderbird or Evolution installed, you can do that. There's a panel reset button to no longer needs to log out of the session, so it can reset the panel now without having to log out. All these are little minor things that if you've used Peppermint, you are aware of. Qt applications now honor the GTK theme, so that's pretty big as far as bringing a unified look into your system. I've never really noticed that, if that was an issue, but I also don't use a lot of different applications. This is the writing computer. I pretty much use it for light web browsing as it relates to researching books. I use it for writing the books, and also I prepare some studies on it as well. So pretty much I just use LibreOffice on this computer and a small other group of things. I actually write and produce all my books on Peppermint. So if you see my books, if you purchase my books, they are actually produced on Peppermint. I'm actually going to produce my next one on something else because I'm going to record the video, but for the most part, they get produced all on Peppermint. It's a great distro. let's see. They also have Snap and Flatpak support out of the box. They have the Mint install software and the GNOME Software Center as well. HTOP is also installed. I presume that's installed as an ICE. No, that wouldn't be an ICE application. Duh. It's just installed. Probably have a menu item for it. I wasn't thinking there. They have a Find Your Mouse cursor. They did go from, in Peppermint 8, they went from Firefox to Chromium. They went from Chromium back to Firefox. So that's, I think there's a lot of Linux distros that are kind of debating which is the better used, Chromium or Firefox, because there's controversy surrounding both of them, to be honest. Those are probably the two best Linux web browsers as far as total core functionality, but there is controversy involved in each one of them, so you can kind of understand that. They do have a statement about having the SSB, which is an ICE application for Microsoft Office. We're going to get into why that is when we actually see the installation. There's a new Skype web client. Oh, cool. I didn't know Skype had a new web client. That's exciting. Nemo File Manager is 3.6.5, which is actually still a little older, but that's probably okay. Actually, I really think 3.6 was the golden age of Nemo. I started to not like it as much as they moved to more progressive ones. And of course, now it's based on Ubuntu 18.04 LTS codebase. This is an interesting little one because we were discussing on our Life in Linux the other day about some possible issues with the Ubuntu 18.04 LTS core. There are a lot of things that seem to be a little funky in some issues, in some instances with that core. And actually a number of people that I've talked to already who have tried out Peppermint said that it did foul up after a little bit. So I'll be curious to see if that's the case. Like I said, I'm running Peppermint 7. I absolutely love it. Zero issues at all. So I'm not going to bother changing because why? But anyway, that's Peppermint. So now we'll go ahead and boot up a virtual machine and see what that looks like. So here is our machine. We're just going to run this with 6 gigs of RAM, which is overkill. 128 megabytes of video memory. I think I have 4 processing cores on this on my Ryzen 6 here. Ryzen 5 is what I'm running. So we'll go ahead and start this machine up and see what it does. So we're going to go ahead and install it. And here we are at our installation menu here. So we're going to go ahead and continue through the installation. US English, US English. Okay, what apps would you like to install? So we have now a normal and a minimal installation. I don't remember if this has always been what they've done. So, of course, the minimal installation will give you a web browser and basic utilities. Your normal will give you web browser, utilities, Office software, games, and media players. Let's go ahead and do the the normal installation. We will go ahead and download updates while installing it, and let's go ahead and also install our third-party software for graphics and such. So, let's go ahead and push our continue. Okay, so here we can install Peppermint alongside my existing, or we can erase the disk and install it. I'm going to go ahead and erase the disk and install it, as I don't need the Debian installation over there right now. I'm going to continue to write those changes to the disk. And now picking our time zone. Okay, I'm just going to do Peppermint across the board. And I want to go ahead and just log in automatically. Actually, let's require a password to log in. Okay, so now it's going to copy files and start installing. One of the things I really liked about Peppermint is they just had a wonderful implemented dark theme right out of the box. And that's actually one of the things I really liked about 7 more so than 8 is I really enjoyed the theming a lot more in 7. So I'll be curious to see what the theming now looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and let this go, and then we'll come back when it's done. Okay, so our installation is complete. So now it tells us we will need to restart now. So we're going to go ahead and do that. It's going to shut down. It should give us a prompt to press enter again to remove the ISO, and then it should reboot properly after that. Okay, so here we are at our login screen. So far, so good. This is pretty cool. Guest Editions is working out of the box. We have, this is just a very cool logo and design. Very nicely done. So let's go ahead and log in for the very first time. And I'll remind you as we do this, I have not looked at this at all. I'm just having a look at everything for the first time, just the same as you. All right, so my first thoughts here, logging in here, being used to seeing the Peppermint. A lot of the icons, they do look a little similar. I like the icons here a little bit better than I liked the ones on 7. They just look a little bit better, more up to date. Particularly the Peppermint icon is greatly improved. That is really cool looking. It's like I said as before, not always my favorite types of icons, but certainly good, acceptable, and modern. This is the menu here, which has a very nice search command, so you can just type in anything in there. The search command, you can expand this in or out. Of course, these are your log out, switch users, lock the screen, and all of your settings. Everything else down here is pretty much what I would expect it. Here is your Mint Updater. Of course, you can look at your Linux kernels in here, just like in Linux Mint. So you can see we are shipping with 4.15. And we'll just go ahead and close that out. There's a variety of other packages here as well. This is the older version of the Mint Updater, and the reason we can tell that is that it's still giving us levels. Now, it did not ask us out of the box which level we would like it, so it is selecting everything. I don't want to push updates while I do the video here, just for the sake of that. We do have over here our indication of our keyboard layouts and things. I always thought this was a little goofy. Just it's like, I guess I understand if you've installed this or you need some functionality to change your keyboard icon, it's cool. But the fact that it's just on there out of the box is just, to me, a little goofy, but that's perfectly okay. We have our clock down here. And let's go ahead and have a look at our system settings before we dive in too much further. This is something Peppermint's done pretty well, just to have their own custom system setting. So here's the Peppermint Control Center here. So this is where your theme setup is. So we have a variety of different Peppermint icon packs that they have. There's a red light and a red dark, a red mixed. Let's do something, let's see, what's that actually changing the color of? I don't know. Let's close that out, see if that actually changes anything. Not really. I'm not sure if you'd have to log out and log back in to see the changes in the themes. Let's just go ahead and keep it as it was by default. Here's your pointers, so you can do tap to click enabled, 2-finger vertical. So a lot of these are more for like a touchpad type approach. Here's your keyboard shortcuts. So if you do want to know if there's a specific keyboard shortcut, there's that. Desktop effects. So I like changing desktop effects of some things. Changing opacity around a little bit. I like doing things like that. So you can play around with those and figure out where you'd like to see anything there. You can see the coloration here. I do like this theme. It does look very nice. Customized look and feel. Okay, so here's if you want to do some different type of theming. I really like this this theming out of the box is pretty nice to me. So go ahead and keep that. Let's see what does mist look like. You can see they have, basically a highlight color and a dark, a light, a mixed for each one. I like the dark red coloration there, so you can customize your color scheme. Here's our icon packs. I would like to see, maybe it's in here, but I'd like to see them add something for desktop to be able to easily add your icons to the desktop. That's something I like to do. Panel preferences. Okay, so there, if you want to adjust your row size, you can make your panel really small, really large, depending on what size you want down there. So that's a pretty nice setting there. Number of rows, length. As far as your appearance, here we can actually do opacity. Now, I like setting the opacities to be the same. Some systems have the opacities where it will change if you go over top of it like this. I don't actually like that, but I do like a slightly opaque panel. I just really like to be able to see some of the desktop come out from behind it. So it's kind of little things. And then here is the whisker menu here, our launcher, each one of our launchers down there, and then the various things that we have. So it's your panel adjustment. And there's a variety of different folder icon types you can choose from. I like the Style 6. I like that one. It's pretty nice. Then you can adjust your colorations there. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel that. Wallpapers. We still have our old classic wallpaper there that was from the old Peppermint 7 days default. They just have so many gorgeous wallpapers in this, which is kind of cool. Here's I think this one first debuted in the 8, didn't it? Here's a alternative 9. Here's, I think, the one that came with. I think that's just kind of the differences, which coloration you want. That dark is pretty cool. I actually use this one on my personally. I really like this color. Of course, you can do the blue one as well. Not an overwhelming amount of wallpapers, but certainly enough. I'm going to go ahead and put the alternative one on there. I think that's the one I'd like to run for now. As far as Dropbox, let's see, is not installed, not be able to verify binary signatures. I do not like the fact that this is in there because I do not like Dropbox as a company. I hate them as a company, and I do not like the fact that several Linux distros are integrating them in to this level of the system. That is, I think it's an incorrect to do. Have as an option to download for sure, but don't deeply embed it in here. That to me is a negative. All right, so tweaks, resalt the default panels. I think it's actually downloading, by the way, that Dropbox thing, and I don't see a way to stop it. All right, deconf editor. So if I remember correctly, it's not desktop. I think it's org gnome desktop, and I thought that's where I'll have to look as to where you have to change one of the settings in here to put your desktop icons back on. I forget where it is. We have our software and update settings here. So this is going to bring up our the same panel that you'd have inside of Ubuntu. So here you can search for extra drivers, things like that. We'll go ahead and abort that. I don't want it to be searching for that right now. All right, hardware. Here's your printers, sound. Here's your display. Again, additional drivers is here. Pulls up the same thing we were just at. Pulse audio volume controller. Some people hate that. I've never really had a problem with it. But network. So here is our ICE. So let's go ahead and before we dive into this one any further, let's go ahead and stop and talk about the ICE packages, because some of the things that they have on here, of course, they put Dropbox. This is going to be an ICE package. The Skype is an ICE package. And inside of here, you'll see Gmail, Google Calendar, Google Drive, and Office, and the Office items. These are all ICE packages. So this is a great feature. And what they did is out of the box is they installed these because these are some of the software features people regularly use. Once again, just like Dropbox, I don't necessarily like the fact these are all here. However, I fully understand it. I understand it. I don't like it. And the reason is if you're trying to get a Linux distro out there in the hands of people in this cloud-based world where lots of people are using Microsoft and lots of people are using Google, it makes sense to have these functionality here. I would maybe like to see in the installer or something else like that the option of what is here, and maybe the minimal install didn't install these. It's very possible because you'll notice they do not have LibreOffice or any other Office suite installed. So it's very possible if we selected the minimal, we would not have gotten all of these in here. That's something we could go back and have a look at. But what these are is the ICE packages. It uses the is it SSB or SBB, whatever. I think it's SSB, which is the way of packaging a web browser. This would work with Chromium. It works with Firefox, and it works with a few other browsers. That if you have those installed, you can select which browser is used. So what we do here is if we go into our ICE packages. You can create or remove them. So these are the list of all of the ICE packages that we have. So you'll see that there's a solitaire, so that's going to be under your games. So you can see here, probably many of these are going to be those. So what these are is a package. So if you just kind of click on this and remove, it's going to take them out of the system. So if you don't like the Google or the Microsoft stuff in here, then you just come into here and remove them, and that's going to get rid of all of them. You might be able to select multiples. Nope. Looks like we're stuck one at a time. And I pretty much just want to get rid of all of these. I'm not a big fan of having all this stuff that's pre-installed. I am going to keep the user's guide, and I'm going to keep the Peppermint forums on there. As far as how to create one of these, under create, you would just go ahead and create what it is, enter the web address. And then this is where you select what menu you'd like this under. So maybe I'll put this under, let's go ahead and put this under Internet. And then I can select an icon, or I can use the site favicon. And then here you can see these are actually the 4 supported browsers: Firefox, Vivaldi, Chromium, and Chrome. Of course, you'd have to install any of these other ones in order to use them. So since Firefox is the only thing on the system, it defaults to Firefox. If I did install any of these other ones, you can select them from the menu, and then that particular website would load. So for example, I know that YouTube works better in Firefox than it does in Chromium, but there's applications that like your Google Office suites will always work better under Chrome. So if you are a heavy user of Google Docs and other Google services, you would want to install Chrome and then set up your settings there to use Chrome instead of Firefox, because they're probably going to work with better support there. Click apply, and then give it a second, and then that should go in there and create a new item, which will also now appear under my Internet menu. So if I click on this, it's going to load up my channel name inside of a uneditable, unchangeable Firefox window. So you can see that there's no navigation. I can't go anywhere else, but we do have access here to my entire YouTube. So this is actually a really cool place where you can actually get in here and make your own little application. So if you happen to be a person that utilizes a lot of online services, FreshBook, Office suites through either Google or Microsoft, or you're using your webmail, Peppermint makes a fabulous distro to use because of the support out of the box, where you can set it up with your own specific browser you want to use. You can create these on your desktop icons. You can just go right into them, and it's just like opening any other application. So this is actually just a fabulous thing. The one thing, though, I wish you could do is edit them. So all the ones that are created are all, of course, going to use Firefox. But if you did want to use Google Docs out of Chrome, it'd be nice to be able to come in here and edit those applications, and I'm not sure you can. You might be able to with some of the settings and things. All right, so inside of your system, here we have startup applications. We have our software manager. Let's see which software manager this is. Oh, duh. I've been working on the Peppermint, or on the Linux Mint VirtualBox for a while. I forgot I used that password instead. Okay, so this one is actually... Is this one the GNOME, or is this one... I'm lost. Okay, so this is the Mint install. So the Mint install one's going to have access to snap packages and things. So if I do Kden Live, I should see a snap option, or a Flatpak option as well. Maybe I don't. Okay, well, maybe we just get the one there. Bad example, I guess. But here we can search for our various things. We can install different applications. I thought they had said that the GNOME software manager's in here too. That one just didn't look like the GNOME one. So let's go ahead and dip through the menu now. Of course, there is, like I said, there is that minimal install that we did not use. Though our accessories, we have Archive Manager, Calculator, Character Map. These are overrated. If you are a writer or do a lot of things like that, you can do that. Icon Browser to view icons. I think this is the menu editor that they installed. So, yep. So this is the menu editor that they installed because a lot of people wanted this in here. I've not actually used this, but it's going to be probably similar to the other menu editors I've seen. So you can come in here and just make some adjustments. I'm not sure exactly how this is used. I don't know. Maybe that'd be a neat video. Learn how to use that one. Let's see. Let's load up the task manager, see what we're running. So we're using 7% of the memory, so 7% of 6 gigs would be something small. They said HTOP was installed on this too. Let's run HTOP instead, because that'll actually tell me the memory usage. So we're running on 400 megabytes, just shy of 400 megabytes. So very lightweight system. Very lightweight system indeed. All right. Okay, Task Manager, Terminal, Wallpapers, Basic Text Editor, Simple Scan. Of course, there's that Dropbox. I'd like to just uninstall that thing. And I didn't see that being an application. So that's actually the Dropbox application is installed, I guess. Here's your multimedia. We have VLC instead of having a suite of other things. Pulse Audio Equalizer and Volume Control. Here is your additional drivers. The other thing that Peppermint has always had is this advertisement blocker. This is actually an excellent device. What this is going to do is it's going to add a lot of things to your host file. So I'm just going to go ahead and select all services. So now it's loading all the services, and then what this is actually going to be doing is making a big adjustment to your host file. So if I now do sudo nano etc the host file, then you'll see what it's going to do is that just added a ton of different advertising network blockers. So all this will block out. Now I'm curious about something, and that is that in Ubuntu 18, some of these 127.0.0.1 blocking files are actually killing the internet connections. So let's go ahead and actually reboot this and see if adding those actually breaks that. I'm just curious about that. I'm just going to sudo reboot that, let that reboot, and then we'll just go ahead and see if the internet still works. So it does seem to be working. We're going to navigate to another web page, though, just to verify. So yes, everything does still appear to be working. All right, so that's good. Okay, Bluetooth manager, firewall configurations. I'm going to boot this one up, see if this is the same one we had before. They'd said something about the GNOME Software Center was in here as well. Okay, so yep, there's the other software center. Okay, so here we actually should have two software centers installed. So we have the GNOME Software Center, which is the one over here on the right, and we have the Mint Software Manager installed over here on the left. And I think that the GNOME one is where you're going to have your Flatpak options, because I think that the Flatpak options were added in the newer version of the Mint installer, which this is not the newer version. And so I think if you're doing a search for something over here, so let's now look for Kdenlive over here. So we still do just have the one version, but I'm thinking that this one is going to be the one with the Flatpak functionality. But you do have both options there for your software centers. Just be aware of that. I don't know, maybe that's a little redundant. Maybe they should have figured out, just said, hey, we're going to use one or the other. But I don't know. That's kind of a hard one. Of course, we do have Synaptic as well for people who want to use that. And I'm going to look for Dropbox and Nemo Dropbox. Kill it. Mark for complete removal. Bye, Dropbox. Don't like you. All right. So I think that is Peppermint. So my final thought on this OS here. Who is Peppermint for? Number one, if you have a lightweight machine and or you do a lot of internet ready things, Peppermint is for you. My experience on Peppermint, this computer, it was installed on this about 2 years ago. 0.00 problems. I've written a couple books on it. It's done a lot of work for me over the years. It is just a great distro. It's very lightweight. The combination of the Ubuntu core and the Mint updaters, Mint software installers makes for a great balance. And I like the fact that they have the ICE applications for the web-based applications. So those are it's all good stuff. I'm not a huge fan of how they integrate Dropbox out of the box here, that they put in all the Office and the Google stuff. I understand it, but I'm not a huge advocate of that. I wish there'd be an option to say, hey, install these or not. Like I said, they might not be installed in the minimal application, but that's something that you might want to just examine for yourself. The other thing I would really like the Peppermint team to look at doing is adding more easy application of adding your desktop icons back on, because a lot of people want desktop icons. It's very possible to. You do it in the deconf editor. I just can never remember off the top of my head how to do it, so I have to look it up. And so that's one of those things that, another one of those things I would really like it if the Peppermint team would think about doing, creating another setting just to do that. Turn on, turn off software, desktop icons. Out of the box. That's for me is what I would like about it. Do I recommend this? Absolutely. This is one of my top recommended distributions. I absolutely love it. I love that they've borrowed from a lot of different places, but despite being borrowed from a lot of different places to put it together, just everything works so well. The desktop themes and applications just very unified in how they look. I love the theming of it. And I like the theming of this better than I like the theming of version 8. So would I want to wipe my computer and install this? I probably wouldn't do that because I don't have a big reason. But if I were looking to install a new operating system on a lightweight computer, I would have zero hesitation with this. I do want to test it out for a couple days, push a few upgrades through, and see what we get from that. But outside of that, this is just a great application. I love the implementation. I love the look, the styles, the themes. They've done a great job on this. This is why it's always one of my top distros for lighter weight computers. So I completely recommend this. So thanks for making it to the end of this video. If you'd like to help support what we're doing, check out our switchtolinux.com/support for all of the ways you can help support us. Of course, you can go shopping over at shop.switchtolinux.com. I do have nice things like stainless steel water bottles and a very high demand mouse pad here. You can pick those up at the shop over there. And if you do like to help support on Patreon, I'm on patreon.com/TomM. For whatever reason, if you search for my name over there, I don't show up. But if you go to patreon.com/TOMM, you get right to it. So thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.